Hello, welcome to Poppin Predictions, where we believe movies aren't over at the end, but are meant to be continued. You're here with Andy and Marqueze, where we ponder what happens in the story once the credits begin to roll. You can find more information about our podcast on Twitter at PoppinPredict and Instagram at PoppinPredictions.pod. While you're at it, please follow us on Spotify, Apple Music, Apple Podcasts, and whatever other platform you use to listen to podcasts. On today's episode, we'll be reviewing the movie Shaun of the Dead. Shaun of the Dead is a horror comedy film directed by Edgar Wright that follows Shaun and his friend Ed as they are caught unaware in a zombie apocalypse. During this apocalypse, they take refuge in a local pub with loved ones. This film is rated R for zombie, violence, gore, and language. You can find this movie on HBO if you have it. You could probably also find it on YouTube, Hulu if you have a subscription. But as always, spoilers ahead. So Marquise, why don't you go ahead and walk us through this zombie setting?
Yeah, so this takes place in London, I believe, and it's funny because the movie starts out kind of as like a normal comedy where you're following this kind of like slacker dude around, or he's like job's not really going well, and like it's just. His life just doesn't seem to be great, and it's just kind of like a little comedy of like all these things kind of happening on his day. He's like going to work, and like he has a friend who's like living on his couch basically, and like bumming up the place, and then he has a roommate who they're always getting into arguments. So it's just like a normal like Saturday for like this kind of like late 20s, early 30s worker dude who just isn't really getting any satisfaction out of life. It's just a horrible day. Oh, and his girlfriend just broke up with him too, and so it's just a lot.
Like day one of zombie apocalypse,
yeah,
you get broken up.
So all this stuff is happening, right? And then at one point throughout this day, he starts to recognize like things are just a little off. Like people are acting a little weird, a little bit. And then he sees on a TV that, oh my gosh, like people are turning into zombies. And so,
which is really funny, just because of the fact that like when he's watching the commercials, he's flipping through the channels, but it's almost like each thing is just lined up perfectly to like exactly. It's just like one story to tell you that like, hey, this is not what it looks like outside.
Yeah, exactly. And he first encounters a zombie while he's with his friend Ed, and so him and his friend Ed pretty much go the whole movie trying to find their loved ones and gather their loved ones, and then get back to the pub so they could like wait out the apocalypse, right? And so that's the kind of theme and idea for the movie. But overall, it's just really funny. So if you ever seen Hot Fuzz, it's made by the same guy who made Hot Fuzz. It's played by the same actors. It's a hilariously funny movie. Particularly the first half. I'll kind of critique the second half a little bit later on, but it's a hilariously funny movie. I thought that the laughs were very good, very genuine. I hadn't seen it.
Aged well too.
It aged well. I haven't seen it in years, but like it still did really good.
Yeah.
And yeah, just kind of like a fun, quick editing comedy style. If you've ever seen Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, it's also very similar like comedy style to that movie, in terms of like quick shots, like big like loud sound effects. It's kind of like that, but really funny. I enjoyed it.
It's funny because I actually legitimately hate Scott Pilgrim.
Yeah, I remember. I was like, as soon as I said that, I was like, don't you hate that though?
I legitimately hate Scott Pilgrim, but good thing we're not talking about that right now. I love. Yeah, it's really funny. I loved this movie, and I've always really appreciated it. And I thought it's always been really funny. And it's great when you're able to watch older movies and like not have to cringe at like awkward moments that like didn't age well. Like I feel like obviously the cringiest moments are like when they refer to cigarettes in a different term that we don't use in the United States because it's kind of derogatory towards LGBT folks. Or like when they're used, for me, it was kind of cringy seeing everyone with like flip phones and like big TVs instead of flat screen TVs, just because I'm just so used to seeing like updated technology. But like other than that, like I think that the movie aged fairly well. And it was the jokes held up, I think. So it was pretty funny.
Yeah, like the way that I don't know, like it's just hard to describe the scenes. Like if I described it, you wouldn't really get it. But like you just have to watch just kind of like really how it's kind of like edited and just styled of like this awkward pauses and awkward like moments where like the people are just responding to questions in kind of funny ways.
Yeah.
Like this,
Like one of the first funny moments was like when like for me, at least for me, one of the first funny moments is like when what's his name, Shaun is at work, and he's talking to one of his employees, because I think he's like a manager and assistant manager, whatever, and one of his employees like gets a phone call like while like Shaun is talking to the whole team, and like the kid has like a full-on conversation, and Shaun's like, "What are you doing?" Like, I'm like, he doesn't say anything like that, but like you can tell he's thinking like, "What are you doing?" And then they have a conversation later, and Shaun's like, "Yeah, like I'm still like I'm 29, and I'm I know this isn't a forever gig, but like I'm just doing this until my next step." Until I find like my potential. And a 17-year-old just like brutally wrecks him, and he's like, "When are you going to do that?" And I'm just like, "Oh dang, you got freaking roasted, Shaun."
No, one of my favorite scenes is where it's when they first encounter the zombies, like for the first time after they're on the TV, and it's you and Shaun, and so like the camera's looking at Shaun, and Shaun's watching the TV, and then all you hear is Ed from like off in the distance go like, "Shaun," he's like, "Yeah," he's like, "There's a girl in the garden."
There's a girl in the garden. Just like how she says it. Yeah, how he says it. It's really
like he has like the drapes over his head. He's looking in the window. You just hear, "There's a girl in the garden."
Well, it's funny because he's just so casual about it.
Yeah,
it's just it's like it happens all the time that random girls are going to be in your backyard. Like that's fine.
Or like in the same scene, like after like they encounter this girl and they accidentally like Ed's taking pictures of like this girl and like all this stuff, and then they push her because she keeps trying to grab them, and she falls on like a pipe, and then she stands up with a big hole in there and keeps marching towards them, and all Ed does is start rewinding the camera to take another picture. Like it's the funniest scene because you're like, what? And it's just like rewinding the camera to take another picture. Like the movie is just really good with like little nuanced comedy like that.
Yeah, something else that was like not like ha funny, but just like like there was like some humor in it was like they're in the apocalypse, like they finally they have their like Shaun and his group are like trying to get to safety, and like earlier on in the movie he makes contact. I don't remember if it's like with like an ex-girlfriend or just like or a close friend of his, but he makes contact with her early in the movie, and then they make contact again. And they share their plans. One's going to like this. One's going to like Shaun's group's going to the pub. The other group is like, I don't know. They're going to some other center or whatever. Not really super important for the majority of the movie. But like the humor is that like they like go in opposite directions, and you see like their groups are like mirrored. So like Shaun has like he's with his ex-girlfriend. He's with his mom. He's with like his ex-girlfriend's friend and her significant other, and of course Ed is with him. And then the other group is basically the exact same thing. Frodo Baggins is in this movie. Now, dang it, I did during the movie too. Bilbo, not Elijah Wood. The person who plays Bilbo Baggins in the Hobbit series is in Shaun of the Dead.
One scene.
He's only in the movie for one scene. But like, if you wanted to see him when he looks drastically younger, Shaun of the Dead, he's in it. It was just, I thought it was a little funny seeing like the mirror as they walk past each other. Like you see like the equivalent,
cool.
like they're equivalent in the other group, which I thought was pretty humorous.
Yeah, overall, like a pretty funny movie.
What I got a question to ask you. Like, what do you typically think of like zombie movies? Like, are you usually a fan of zombie movies, or do you think it's played out, or what? Yeah, what's your take on zombie movies?
So honestly, I would say I'm indifferent. Like I like the genre doesn't entice me, nor does it push me away. It's like if it's a good movie, I can care less. So like I really like Zombieland. To me, Zombieland is just like a classic.
Definitely a good example of a good zombie movie. What I don't know, what sort of separates Shaun of the Dead from like, because I think we both agree, and I think a lot of people also would agree with us, that Shaun of the Dead is probably one of the classic zombie movie, like a newer classic zombie movie that like people can like say like, yes, this is what a zombie movie should be. What do you think separates it from like other movies that have like similar plot lines?
Yeah, so for me, the zombie part of it is kind of just a genre, like, really, because the plot line is, I mean, it's pretty basic. Like,
Yeah, it's
it's
pretty straightforward.
apocalypse happens. You're following one character, and this character tries to get the people he loves to safety. Like, it's a pretty straightforward plot. It's really just the comedy, like it's the type
Yeah.
of comedy that Simon Pegg and Edgar Wright, the people who wrote this film, it's the type of comedy that they write together. So once again, if you've seen there's a trilogy, so it's Hot Fuzz, or I think it might be Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, and then Outworld's End. And it's a
I've
trilogy.
actually never seen At World's End. I've seen Hot Fuzz. I've seen Hot Fuzz, and I've seen Shaun of the Dead, but I don't think I've ever seen At World's End.
No, yeah, I mean it's I would probably say it's the least funny out the three, but like it's still decent.
Yeah.
But like it's just the type of comedy style that they write together, and like I said, this is a really kind of awkward moment, quick pause comedy. Like it's just written really well. Like that's really all there is to say to it. It's not innovative. It's not like incredible acting, or it's not like super.
I mean,
cool
it's not
plot.
bad acting.
Yeah, it's not bad. It's not bad acting, but I'm like, it's nothing. It's nothing like
It's not like
mind-blowing
Whiplash level. It's
yeah. You're not gonna get J.K. Simmons level acting, but it's just that it's funny. It's just the jokes. It's like a fun ride. It's just the jokes are just really funny to laugh at, and I think I don't know how many horror comedies were before this, but taking the whole zombie thing to a super comedic level and just kind of how they deal with it. Because I would say it's not really a horror. Like it's only horror in that the genre.
It's only like
horror.
jumps. There's like occasional jump scares, but even still, like even the jump scares aren't super scary. Like I would say it's like a comedy movie in a horror setting. Like it's just like, but like there's nothing about this movie that, like, unless you're easily scared, like there's nothing about this movie that's like overtly scary.
Yeah, 100%. And so, like I said, like Andy, you said it perfectly, just a couple of scenes, but jump scares, but that's really it. So for the most part, you're just watching it for the comedy aspect, which, and I want to ask you a question, Andy, this is what kind of got me, is that since I'm here pretty much solely for the comedy aspect of it, to see the second half of the film, and I feel this happens with a lot of comedies, is in the second half of the film, they're so focused on fulfilling the plot, and they kind of stop with the jokes, or at least with the good jokes. And for me, in the second half of this film, the comedy definitely seemed to go down to me.
Yeah, it definitely, you're 100% right. Like, I think there's no other, like, boom, I'm gonna copy paste what you said and put it where what I'm gonna say, because like you're right. Like I think that this movie does a great job of setting the scenes, I think it does a great job of getting you invested in the plot and the universe and what's going on, by using its sense of humor and kind of taking a zombie story, like a basic zombie story, with like with a twist to it. Mm-hmm. But I think It definitely does go back and like focuses more on the plot the second half of the movie. But I will say that if it doesn't ever go back and focus on the plot, I think that it's a double-edged sword, I think. Mm-hmm. Because if it never goes back and focuses on the plot, then like it's like then like we would be saying that like this movie has no direction, it's not going places. Mm-hmm. It wasn't focused. Mm-hmm. Whereas like, the way that they did it, like it was funny at first, and then like there were still like funny quote unquote moments in the second half, but like nothing super hysterical in the second half of the movie. But like they focused more on the plot, which I can appreciate, because I would rather have a movie that like at the end of the day focuses back onto the plot than a movie that like is just a compilation of scenes.
But I mean, for me, they could have focused on the plot and still give the comedy, but instead they focused on the plot and gave more of the drama.
Yeah.
You can have, like, once they actually reach the pub, you get a lot more scenes that, I mean, though they obviously start sprinkling comedy everywhere, you get a lot more scenes that are more drama based. And for example, there's a scene where Shaun's mom has been bitten and she's returned, and then one of the guys in the group is like, we need to kill her, and Shaun's like, no, you can't, that's my mom, like you better not like shoot my mom. And like they sprinkle a little comedy in that scene, but for the most part they're just trying to give a really dramatic scene. And for me, it'd be different if there was one or two of these, or like just do one or two really dramatic scenes. But instead, they just kind of like did a bunch of like, oh, like everyone's dying, like goodbye offs to all like 5 characters, and also made all the goodbyes funny though. But I don't know, it just like it wasn't hitting. Whereas the first half was joke after joke, hilarious with hilarious.
And you could tell that like they were definitely trying to be more intentional and focusing on the drama, because like at this point in the movie, like they were surrounded by zombies, like there was no way out. So like that's the setting. But like you saw throughout like that final act, the zombies were easily able to access the bar and break in through the windows, but they never did until after Barbara died, until they killed Barbara. Like it's like they were waiting for Barbara to get killed. And then that's when they were like, you know what, we're going to come and invade the bar and invade the pub and then kill everyone. But I there is something I want to make sure I talk about, because I would be really mad at myself if I don't. So what I really think, it goes back to my question of like what separates Shaun of the Dead from other zombie movies, what makes it better. I think for me, when I think back on this movie and kind of reflect, like this movie, there are actually 2 types of zombies in this movie. There were the very obvious flesh-eating zombies that, you know, that are the catalyst in the movie, that are like, you know, like the apocalypse is happening and like, you know, the zombies are running around. But you could also make the argument that that the people themselves are also zombies, because there's the 2 definitions of the zombie. There's the flesh-eating, you know, person, but there's also like the mindless drone that just continues actions. And so I would also say that like Shaun is very mindless. Like he's just kind of going through like before the apocalypse happened, I would say, like he was just kind of going through the motions. Like his relationship really wasn't going anywhere. He forgot about his anniversary and setting a reservation. Like people hate Ed because Ed is like kind of a loser. Like he's not really doing anything with his life. Like he's just playing video games. And there's a point where Shaun, like in the beginning of the movie, I think this is how it starts out, with like Shaun just kind of like yawns and like mimics the sounds of zombies and like his yawn and stuff like that. So like it's kind of like the people themselves are also kind of like mindless zombies. And so like I think that is a really different perspective that like other zombie movies don't take, is that like a lot of times it's like people who are cognitively aware trying to take down zombies. Like that's like the typical route. But like this movie has its you know, both sets of people here are actually zombies in their own way.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think like in the intro shot too, like the intro credit where they're just shooting the people. They actually end up showing you all these people eventually who will be zombies.
Yeah,
but,
exactly.
It's showing them, and like they are, like they already all look like zombies before they're zombies. They're 100%. Just droning around, you know, just kind of lifeless, and it's I don't know, it's just one of those things to where. Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. It just shows that like everybody was just going through the motions. Like it was like the apocalypse is what sparked some excitement. It's what sparked, you know, all these new things that were now going to happen, all these new events. But other than that, like every day was the same. Like that's what Pete, Shaun's roommate, was complaining about. Was like Ed is just over here every day playing video games, eating up our food on our counts, you know, not paying rent. Oh my gosh, you guys forgot to close the door for the 10th time. Close the front door or lock the front door. You know, like it's a constant repetition of just day in and day out, same thing.
Yeah, so like the zombie apocalypse that they are going through helps Shaun kind of find himself and like helps him discover like, okay, like I need to become a hero. Like I think it's like, it's funny because like he was a manager. So at the video store. And so it's kind of like those like leader versus manager role. Like he's been a manager before, but it wasn't until like the end of the world that he became a leader. And like, I think that Liz, his girlfriend, like her biggest problem with him was that like it just didn't seem like he tried. Like, and ever. Like it doesn't. Like he never tried to do anything, and like you could tell that was really important to her because at like towards the end of the movie when so like Ed gets bitten, like everyone but Shaun, Liz, and Ed have died. Ed gets bitten by I think Pete bites him, or he gets attacked by Pete. And
Ed gets bitten by. Please sort out the picture. Ed gets bitten like during one of the final scenes where.
Yeah, but Pete's there. Like Pete comes back as the zombie, and I don't remember if it was Pete that. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's right. You're right.
Yeah, I don't remember if Pete bites him or I know that Pete attacks him. Anyway, Ed gets bitten. Sorry to go off this. It's not really important. And they have like this like really touching moment at the end where they're just trying to like admitting their fates that they're about to die. And Shaun was talking about how he failed at keeping everyone safe, and that that he was trying to win Liz back, but it didn't end up working out. And like Liz just says that like she's just happy that you tried to succeed. And they ended. I mean, technically they do. He does succeed because like in a way, like she agreed. Like Shaun mentions that like you don't want to die alone.
Yeah.
And
he corners basically corners her into saying like, I guess we could be together. It's just like I really have no other options.
We're gonna be together for like 5 more seconds anyway. I could do that. That's basically what Shaun was trying to do. So yeah, I think that it took a zombie apocalypse to wake Shaun up from his zombie stance.
Yeah. No, I 100% think so too. Yeah,
it was kind of funny just seeing like all of like the parallels. Like there's a like in the first before the zombie apocalypse happens, like Shaun is just walking throughout his day, and like there's like he's like walks past a car. There's like a dude washing his car. There's like a jogger. There's a guy that's like managing the trash. And then once the apocalypse happens, he walks past that same car with like a huge hole in it. The same jogger runs past him, but like he's obviously running for his life and not jogging for fitness purposes.
And Shaun notices none of this.
Yeah, Shaun doesn't notice.
He's zombified already, walking by.
That's what I also really loved about this movie was that like it was honestly, I feel like it was like the most realistic start to a zombie apocalypse I've ever seen, because like I don't know, I feel like if it actually were to happen, like I mean, similar to COVID, like, I mean, no one took it seriously at first, and like people were still carrying on with their day, just like Shaun was carrying along with his day. And it wasn't until you started hearing about stuff on the news that like, hey, this is a national pandemic, or hey, the best way to stop these zombies is a blow to the head. Like that's when people started taking, wearing a mask, taking it seriously, and Shaun started taking it seriously once he started seeing things on the news, and of course, like encountering live zombies that tried to eat his face off.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, overall, I thought I actually didn't even think of the more like kind of like philosophical death that you went with this. But yeah, I mean, I think you're definitely right. Like he definitely was already, especially that second take where he's walking through that neighborhood again, the same exact path, and this time it's all destruction, all bad, but he just does not notice. He's just completely zombied out of his mind already. Just, as a normal person through his normal day. And it's through the apocalypse that he finally wakes up. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Cool film. So, Andy, how do you see this continuing?
Yeah, so how this movie ends, we kind of talked a little bit about. So they're locked in the basement of the pub, and the zombies are all around them. They're saying their goodbyes. They're trying to figure out like if Shaun, like how they're gonna off themselves because they don't want to become zombies. They just want to, they don't want that fate for themselves. So right as in its darkest moment, Shaun's friend who he ran into earlier in the movie comes with the military to the pub. And they completely kill, like they obliterate, they demolish all of these zombies that were there. And they, like Ed, Liz, and Shaun kind of live their happy lives. And so the next scene kind of shows how these zombies are actually relatively harmless because these are like kind of like your stereotypical zombies. Like they are slow moving, they're they're mindless. Some newer adaptations of zombie movies and zombie TV shows, like zombies have a sense of smell. Like that isn't the case in this movie, and in this movie, so like it kind of goes back to normal. Like and it's almost like they rehabilitate these zombies and give them like low paying jobs or whatever.
Yeah.
I feel weird saying this,
Yeah.
but it's almost like slave labor.
Really
like
is.
it's just like
they have them do all the basic stuff.
Like they have this guy, like they have them like pulling in carts and stuff like that. Not to say that people aren't paid to do that now, but like I doubt they're paying zombies to do that.
Yeah.
So it goes. Liz and Shaun are back together. They seem to be really happy. And it breaks away to the shed, and Shaun and Ed are together. And like they're playing video games. Ed tries to bite him. Shaun's like, "No, don't do that." And then they play video games, and it fades to black. I don't think it's weird. This is what I am curious about. I don't know if this would happen in this particular universe, but what I also think separates Shaun of the Dead from other movies, like other zombie movies, is that either like the two endings, stereotypical endings, are humanity overcomes the zombies and reclaims society, or humans have to adapt to the new normal that the zombies are the prevailing force in society. Whereas Shaun of the Dead ends in almost like a hybrid, where like the humans have overcome this apocalypse, but they are adapting to a new normal where zombies are there and they can live with them and kind of coexist relatively peacefully. So I have two different frame of thoughts. Both of them are kind of dark in a certain sense. This is what I personally would be curious about, and not what I think would actually happen, but just what I think could happen. We have never had a zombie movie, zombie TV show, whatever, like explore how like the brain. Like we've never seen like what makes a zombie a zombie. And so I think that this is probably the perfect universe where like you can probably take the scientists who haven't gotten eaten by zombies and like take them together to explore zombies, see what makes them tick. Like I think that it would be really cool to see like if they like I was thinking about this earlier, like how cool it would be to like strap a zombie to like an MRI machine and like stimulate the zombie's like brain in a certain sense to see like what makes it tick and stuff like that. Because I think that would open the door to so many new zombie movies, franchises, whatever, because you could like these scientists could discover like what makes a flesh-eating monster a flesh-eating monster. Like what exactly makes it do that. So like I would love to see like that, completely abandoning Shaun, Liz, Ed, like completely abandoning that, but also seeing like what makes a zombie, because this is what this is what this universe does, is that it has them coexist peacefully. And so it would be like the perfect universe to see like what makes them tick and stuff like that. In terms of like the Shaun and Liz storyline, I honestly don't think that keeping Ed as like a friend / pet is a good thing. I definitely like let's say, you know, Liz and Shaun like make it last and they have like a strong relationship together. Like let's say they both want to have kids. Like I could see like there being a horrific accident where like the kid goes and plays with Ed and then Ed, you know, accidentally or on purposely, we don't know, but like in some way like bites the kid, and then they have to decide between like keeping their kid alive and keeping Ed alive, because Ed just obviously isn't a safety. And I think that is like the next iteration of Shaun of the Dead, is that you realize that like they were never able to coexist peacefully, that the zombies really aren't like suitable for humanity, and that they end up having to kill all the zombies.
Okay. I see that. Well, I was thinking, so I have two trains of thought.
Okay.
One focused on Shaun and Ed, one focused on the zombies. So one I have is Shaun and Ed is, like you said, you don't see it working well with Ed being a pet. I don't necessarily see that working well either. And so what I kind of envision with Shaun and Ed is I envision more of a society where obviously having zombies as, you know, these little workers doesn't really go well. They start biting people, you know, like more and more slip-ups happen. And so they say that, you know what, we're going to get rid of all of them. They get rid of all the zombies. And then it's just him and Ed. He has to hide Ed. And like he has to like they're not going to take you from me, Ed. And so Ed's like the last zombie in the area. And so he then has to like get through, I don't know, like some time period, the day, month, week, whatever, without them finding Ed. And so he has to kind of like dress Ed up like just as normal, kind of have to like fake him through, like have to fake Ed through like society, like having a job or something like that for like a week. I don't know, something like that, but kind of like a comedy. This one would be like a comedy drama more so, like based on him not willing to separate from Ed, and no matter how much they try to take Ed away from him, and then him realizing that he can't change Ed back to normal, he has to find a way to get them to accept Ed.
Yeah, I love that. We can. I feel like this is one of my favorite things to do. I feel like we can combine our theories here.
But you didn't hear my third one. My third one though.
Oh, sorry. My bad.
My third theory. This one's focused on the zombies. No more Shaun and Ed.
Oh, no.
Zombie civil rights movement, dog.
Yes! Zombies lives matter! Zombies lives matter!
Is that going to be our first merch, bro? I don't know how well that's going to go. First merch line is going to be Zombies Lives Matter.
Comment on this post if you'd love to have a Zombies Lives Matter shirt.
T-shirt. Let us know. We'll see if we can get them for you. But yeah, I think that having like a revolt where the zombies are just kind of like, we don't want to do this labor work. Like, we don't want to just do all this stuff for you for no reason. And so like the zombies go and like have a revolt, and you know, there's like a leader, like Ed ends up being the leader. Maybe that pops out, and it's just like, yeah, you know, like we deserve better. And Shaun has to decide, is he going to fight with the zombies or for the humans? Like, any of these work, yeah. And he's facing his palms right now. He's just.
I just keep thinking of like, gosh, if we're gonna take like that, like societal rights approach, like just like imagine like just like how like a zombie gaining the ability to speak, and like that's the next phase
like,
of like
have
the
a
zombie
dream speech,
like the next phase of like the zombie iteration evolution. Oh my gosh, that'd be so funny, dude, because you just see like these zombies like talking about like how they're oppressed and how they are literal slaves, and like it wasn't their fault that they became zombies and that they exist in this land. Like it wasn't like their fault that, you know, they lost their history and everything once that happened to them. So like, oh gosh, like just like, and then just like imagine like the politicians, like I could just like imagine like progressive liberals are like, let's add them to like our agenda, like let's get them right, and like conservatives are like, no, like they're zombies, like I don't even understand, like I don't see life or death, I see humans and stuff like that. Oh gosh, that'd be so funny, dude.
I'm telling you, like people need to start hiring us, yo.
Oh gosh, that'd be so funny.
Oh.
But let's
copywriting these ideas.
Gosh. We gotta start charging people for this.
Right.
But yeah, Love it. Love those. I'm going to go back to combining theories.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to combine our first two theories. The like my societal like scientists exploring like what makes zombies zombies, and your like theory on how they're trying to eliminate, like they realize that the zombie slave labor union thing isn't working out. They have to take out all the zombies. So what I think how that starts is scientists are trying to figure out what makes them tick. At the same time, we see an I think that humanity is back to like somewhat of a, not complete stability, but more stability than when the apocalypse first happened. But we are starting to see an uptick in zombie bites and stuff like that. So like it's like a race between the scientists discovering, like trying to find a cure for the flesh-eating zombieism, and like the military like saying like, no, we need to kill these zombies. And so I think it's kind of like Shaun, they make like the president or the whoever in this universe like makes the decision to kill all the zombies, and Shaun, while trying to keep Ed safe, runs into a scientist who is trying to find a cure. And so at the end of this movie, like as they're trying to get Ed to safety, the scientist finds the cure to this virus and is able to kind of revert all of the zombies back to normal humans. Basically, what I'm trying to say is that Shaun of the Dead becomes I Am Legend.
Yo, somebody call Edgar Wright. Tell him we got a script for him. Yo, like tag Edgar Wright in this.
We have the comedic I Am Legend is what I'm trying to say. Like, take like the I Am Legend setting and the Shaun of Legend universe and combine them.
Shaun of Legend and the Shaun of Legend universe.
Oh my god!
We did title this episode Shaun of Legend.
Yes, I'm gonna do that. Shaun of Legend. Oh my gosh, this is amazing. Yes, that is exactly that is the prediction I'm going to go with. The Shaun of Legend prediction. But let's transition to our rating scale. So for those of you who this is your first episode, welcome. Love having you here. We use a rating scale, the popcorn bucket rating scale. Picture like your we like small, medium, large. Picture a small bucket being like your 1 to 3, like don't watch this movie, like this is garbage. 4 to 6 is like medium, like this is worth the watch, but probably towards the end of my watch list. Large is like, yeah, this is pretty high up on my watch list. Like I really enjoy this movie. I would recommend it to other people. And then we have our large, big bucket, which is like your 10 out of 10. Like stop what you're doing, watch this movie right now. So Marqueze, where would you put Shaun of the Dead in our popcorn rating scale?
So I would give Shaun of the Dead a large.
Okay.
Like it just gets to large. It's not like it's not strong.
It's a large. It's a large bucket with no butter.
No butter.
No
like
salt, no fixins. It's just
But like it's solid though. Like it's funny. It's a funny zombie film. So if you want zombies, but you're not trying to like be scared, but like I don't know, you want to laugh, have a good time. The comedy super witty. It's British humor. It's a fun time, and like there's not a ton of great zombie comedy. I mean, the only other zombie comedy that I can really think of that I like is Zombieland. Only the first one. Second one was trash.
Yes, 100%
was garbage. And so
100%, I agree with you there.
Shaun of the Dead is amongst the elite company, being I would say one of the only 2, maybe 3 movies like in that league, and so I think it does really good at what it's trying to do. Like it has flaws here and there, but overall it's really creative, and I think it does what it does well. So yeah it gets a large for me.
Yeah.
You?
I would agree. I'd give it like a large, no butter, no salt, no nothing. I think it squeaks into the large category. I can, watching it again, like I can see why this is a classic. Like the jokes are still age well. They're still pretty funny. Even though like it wasn't a super original plot, like there are like you're able to philosophize on this movie, which I think is wild. It's one of those like perfect, like I'm not in the mood for a horror, but I'm not necessarily in the mood for a comedy. I'm in the mood for a comedy, but I'm also in the mood for a horror. Like it's like a nice combination of both. Yeah, I think that it squeaks in at a large for me.
Okay. Perfect. That's great. So, people, what did you think of our continuation of Shaun the Dead? Did you agree? Please follow us on Twitter at Poppin Predict and Instagram at PoppinPredictions.pod to let us know your thoughts and how you think this movie should continue. Anything else, Andy?
Yeah, no, let us know if you want to see that. Like we said earlier, let us know if you want to have that Zombies Lives Matter shirt. That would be pretty funny. Definitely would love to get that going. Until then, keep popping, everyone.
Peace.